To the phones we go, east of the Rockies. You're on the air with us on Coast to Coast. Hi there.
Hi, this is Josh from Columbus, Ohio. How you doing tonight?
Good, Josh. Thanks for calling.
Hey, no problem. I had a question for Stuart. I'm a very religious, spiritual person, and I actually happen to sort of agree with what you're saying. I actually believe that Yahweh or Yahweh, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, I actually think this might be the God of the humans, the Atlanteans. And what you're saying about the reptilians, it just speaks to me because what do we hear about Satan? The first thing, what is he? He's the snake, the reptilian in the Garden of Eden. The beast at the end of times in the book of Revelation is the dragon. So I'm very curious to see whether you believe that maybe there is some sort of connection between, Judeo-Christian beliefs in the creator God, who would maybe our God, the human God, versus the reptilian God, who may be Satan. And I'll take the answer off air. Thank you.
Okay, Josh, go ahead. You can elaborate, Stuart.
Thank you. Well, let me just start out by saying there's only one God. There's not God of humans and God of reptilians. There's only one God, or I call God mind, that creates all of existence. What we see in the Bible as far as the gods of the ancient Hebrews, they were alien beings. They were beings who directed humanity in a certain direction. They also genetically manipulated. They talk about taking the daughters of the sons of man as wives, etc. This is a hybridization program that we're seeing here. And the God mentioned in the Bible, especially in the Old Testament, is none other than alien beings. Even the story of leading the Hebrews out of Egypt across the desert, following the pillars of light, these are what we would call UFOs in present terms. As far as the reptilians are concerned, they worship what, from a religious perspective, would be called demonic entities, but from my perspective, I call it entities from lower astral layers of existence. These are non-physical beings who manipulate society and people from the astral planes, and there is such a thing as connecting to the mind, what is called possession, and the reptilians worship them. Ultimately, if we go back far enough, there is only one God mind, there's only one creator, and even in the Bible it says that Satan only has the power that God gives him or it. So I don't know if I've actually answered the question, but this is my perspective on the God situation.
Off to our first-time caller line. Hello there, you're with us. Go ahead.
Hi. This is Peter from Long Beach. My question to you is, if there is still a God and things like that, what happens when we die? What happens with the reptilians when they die? Do we still go to the same place, or do we go to a different place? And I also want to talk about a little bit about resurrection, such as or a person who is faking their death and coming back, such as like Machiavelli. And there's the last thing I want to ask is, what about homosexuality? How does that seem to exist into our being if we are basically hybrid?
All right, well, let's take the first two, because that's a topic. The last topic is not what Coast to Coast is all about. I don't get into those kind of issues, Stuart. So okay. If you'd address the first couple things that he so eloquently passed on. Go ahead.
Okay, well, when a person passes on, what they initially experience is based on what their mind pattern is projecting, so that if you think when you die you're going to see Jesus, that's what you're going to see. Your mind will project into the astral layers that you go into whatever it is that you perceive. Ultimately, we all go into an area of what I call oversoul or hyperspace level, where your higher intelligence directs and reviews the lifetime that you've just experienced, and then determines where it is that you need to go next, whether it's on the earth or somewhere else. Reptilians, they also have soul personalities, except that they're more species mind related. In other words, instead of being so much as an individual, they're more like a group mind or a hive mind, which is what they're trying to create in humanity through programming. So ultimately, we all experience what we think we're going to experience initially, and then as we become more aware of what and who we really are, we go into other dimensions and existences to help us progress in our path back towards the God mind. So it would be different initially for each individual, but ultimately we all go back to Source or God mind.
Okay, thanks. Let's go to our wild card line. You're on with Stuart Swidlow on Coast to Coast. Hi there.
Hey, this is David here in San Diego.
Yeah, Dave, go ahead.
Hey, I just want to let you, I got the Lemurian Fellowship booklet in front of me here, and I've actually been to their compound, and I've done some work for them. And the creepiest thing is that they're all gray-haired old people, and they're really small, and they don't. None of them would talk to me except for the main guy, and the rest of them just stood around with their hands clasped in front of them, smiling like beatifically at me, you know. And I tried to talk to them, and they refused to talk to me. They would just smile. And also on the back of their book, the one thing they say that their order is to the formation of an ideal society and long-term efforts for their plan, the great work, and to build for quality for citizenship in the coming new order. And that is really creepy. And the Atlantis is their second coming of the second civilization. The first one was the continent of Mu in the Pacific Ocean. And I just wanted to let you guys know that. I didn't hear it say it.
Okay. Stuart, you want to comment on that? And then I have a question about Atlantis for you.
Yeah, well, to me, what this gentleman in San Diego just mentioned sounds like there might be some kind of a cult, although I do agree with Lemurian coming first and then the Atlantean civilization existing. I've never heard of this group particularly before, but it could very well be a group that's a form of mind control programming. There's all kinds of programming out there, as we saw with the group that committed suicide when Hale Bopp came by. So there's many different subgroups out there, and what I would call a cult.
Would you get chipped, Stuart, if they asked you to? A microchip?
Unfortunately, I already have some of these chips in me that have been X-rayed, actually.
What?
Yeah. In fact, all people who were in Montauk Project and anyone who claims to be abducted for whatever reason, many of these people do have chips in them. I will say that the microchips are kind of an obsolete technology now, because the way the satellite technology is and computer technology, they don't even have to chip you anymore. They can tune in directly to your brain frequency and direct you in whatever way they wish. They don't have to microchip. The microchip you can consider as a backup system, but they no longer need that.
Okay, let's pick it up, and we'll go to our next wild card line. It's your turn. You're on with Stuart. Hi there.
Hi, Stuart. How are you?
Hi.
Great. It is me. George, you really do have to get that to where they have the different wild card lines so that when you go to a caller, they know they're on the air.
Yeah, it is true. Every time I go to a wild card line, you all think it's you, don't you?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, you start talking. It's great. Stuart, we got to
figure out how that is. Maybe I'll tell you what. I'll talk with Tom about it. I know how we can fix it. Go ahead. Thanks.
You've got it. Hey, Stuart, first of all, this is Chad in Seattle, Washington.
Hello?
With Inner Circle Publishing. And I'll tell you what, you did your homework. You know more than you're allowed to say, and yet you're saying it anyway, and I appreciate that. First of all, have you seen them yourself?
The reptilians?
Yeah.
Yes, I have seen them, and I've also have seen someone shapeshift directly in front of me.
Okay, so you've direct contact. Do you know about the DUMBs, the deep underground military bases? We've got about 180 of them in the U.S.